Welcome to another night of Reddit stories to fall asleep to. Whether you're winding down after a long day or just looking for a peaceful escape, we've got a selection of stories that will ease your mind and carry you into the night. We'll dive into the world of heartfelt confessions, unexpected twists and touching moments from real people, just like you, who've shared their experiences on Reddit. These stories are meant to relax, entertain and soothe you into a calm state, perfect for drifting off into dreamland. So, settle in, get cozy, and let the stories take you on a gentle journey. Take a deep breath. Let go of the stress from today. It's time to relax. Let's get started. Am I the a-hole for exposing my twin sister's double life after she tried to steal my identity to marry my fiancé? Let me start with the most shocking thing. I, F30, found out that my twin sister was planning to legally replace me, not just date my ex. Not just steal my job, not just impersonate me for a weekend. She was preparing to take over my life, name, social security number, fiancé, everything, and vanish me. I know how insane that sounds, but I swear it's true, and I have the receipts, the photos, the altered documents, the audio recordings, the private investigator's report. I didn't want to go scorched earth, I didn't want to be the villain of our family. But what else was I supposed to do when someone you've loved since before you had language starts slowly, methodically trying to erase you? This story starts years ago. My sister and I are identical twins, mirror images. But that's where the similarities end. I'm quieter, more anxious. She's outgoing, magnetic, charming. People are always drawn to her. Teachers, friends, bosses. Me? I'm the smart one, the responsible one, the steady one. She's the fun twin. Growing up, I accepted that. I was fine being the background twin. She got the attention, I kept us organized. She got into trouble, I bailed her out. When she got caught shoplifting at 17, I was the one who took the blame so she wouldn't lose her college scholarship. When she totaled our parents' car drunk driving at 21, I was the one who faked being the driver. Because I loved her, because I believed in her, because I thought that's what twins did. Fast forward to 3 years ago. I met Daniel. He was everything I'd ever wanted. Kind, ambitious, introverted like me, but funny in a dry, sarcastic way that made me feel seen. We met at work. He was in product, I was in legal. Our romance wasn't flashy, but it was real, steady. We moved in together after a year, got engaged last summer, set the wedding for this spring, and from the beginning, my sister hated him. Not openly. She was too smart for that, but I could tell she'd make comments. He's kind of boring, isn't he? You sure you want to settle so young? He doesn't really get your humor. Stuff like that. At first I brushed it off. She'd always been protective, maybe even a little possessive. Then things started getting weird. She'd show up at our apartment uninvited. Oh, I was just in the area. She'd insist on spending time with Daniel, just getting to know my future brother-in-law. But when I'd suggest group hangouts, she'd find ways to separate us. One time I walked in on her sitting way too close to him on the couch. Her hand was on his knee. When I confronted her, she laughed it off. You're being paranoid. God, you've always been so jealous. Jealous? Of what? Of her charisma? Of the way she could lie so easily? That word stuck in my head, so I started paying attention. Noticing things, like how Daniel sometimes called me Leah, her name, when he was sleepy, or how he reacted strangely when I wore her favorite perfume, or how he mentioned that time we went to the lake house, even though I had never been there with him, but she had. And then came the text. It was a random Tuesday night. Daniel was in the shower. His phone buzzed. I glanced. It was a message from Leah. Just one word. Soon. With a heart emoji. I opened the thread, and my stomach dropped, because the messages weren't just flirtatious and they were intimate, familiar, as if he'd been dating her, sleeping with her, confiding in her, for months. I confronted him that night. He denied it at first, said I was imagining things, that they were just friends, that twins make things confusing. But when I pressed harder, he cracked. They'd been sleeping together for 6 months. It had started at a family barbecue. She'd gotten him drunk, They'd kissed. He swore it was just a mistake, that she pursued him, that he felt trapped, but didn't want to tell me, that he still loved me. I kicked him out that night, but that was only the beginning, because when I tried to confront Leah, she didn't deny it. She smiled. A cold, cruel smile I'd never seen before. "Oh, sweetie," she said, "you were always just keeping my seat warm." That's when it hit me. She didn't just want to hurt me, she wanted to be me. And not in some metaphorical sense, literally. Over the next few weeks I started digging, and what I found still haunts me. She'd opened credit cards in my name. She'd filed a change of address form to redirect some of my mail. She'd photoshopped documents, medical forms, job records, listing her as me. She'd gotten a fake ID with my name and her picture. She'd even tried to access my bank account, claiming to be the real Amelia. And the scariest part? She almost pulled it off. She had Daniel. She had copies of my passwords. She knew my mannerisms, my voice, my security questions. If I had died in an accident, no one would have questioned her. She could have slipped into my life seamlessly. I hired a private investigator, collected everything, photos, witness statements, audio recordings of her bragging to Daniel about how easy this is. Then I waited. I didn't go to the cops. I didn't go to my parents, who always defended her, by the way. I didn't even tell my friends. I waited until our cousin's wedding, a huge 300-person event where she was maid of honor and I was a bridesmaid. And during the reception, I played the recordings over the loudspeaker. I exposed everything: the affair, the forgery, the identity theft. I showed screenshots, played audio, revealed the investigator's report. I even showed a video of her in a wig, rehearsing my speech for the wedding Daniel and I had originally planned. The room went silent. She screamed, tried to tackle me. My parents had to pull her away. She was escorted out. Daniel tried to speak to me afterward. I told him I never wanted to see him again. The fallout? Total. My sister was arrested for identity theft. She's out on bail, but the case is pending. My parents are furious, not at her but at me, for humiliating the family. They say I should have handled it privately, that I went too far. Some relatives cut me off, others think I'm lying, that I doctored the evidence to make her look bad. She's spinning a narrative that I'm mentally ill, that I've always been jealous, that I made the whole thing up. But a few people believe me, enough, and I'm safe now, alone, but safe still. I wake up some nights wondering, did I go too far? Did I need to destroy her publicly? Did I need to ruin her life? Did I cross a line? So Reddit, am I the a-hole for exposing my twin sister's elaborate plan to replace me, even though it meant destroying her life in front of everyone we know? Am I the a-hole for unraveling my entire family's legacy after discovering a horrifying secret my late grandmother made me swear to keep, and then breaking that promise at her funeral? I, M35, never expected to be the kind of person who holds the detonator to an entire family's identity. But here I am, hated by dozens of people, isolated from my siblings, cut out of the will, and branded as the grandson who ruined everything. Some days, I think I deserve it. Other days, I'm sure I was the only sane person in a multi-generational nightmare. Let me take you back. I come from a very wealthy family. Old money. My great-grandfather owned a chain of steel factories in the Midwest, and the fortune trickled down into real estate, philanthropy, and politics. My grandfather expanded the empire and married my grandmother, Helen, who to the outside world was the picture of class, grace, and dignity. We had estates, private school education, trust funds, Christmases in Switzerland. My father, her eldest son, ran the family's investment firm. My uncle was a politician, my aunt an art curator. Everyone had roles, everyone was important, and everyone played by Helen's rules because she was the power behind the throne. Quiet, elegant, but absolutely in control. If she liked you, your life was golden. If not, you were quietly cast aside, sent off to boarding school, rehab, or that program out east, a euphemism for whatever institution was needed to remove you from the family photo albums. I was the middle child of 3, not the golden boy, but not forgotten. I was observant, Quiet, good at chess, close with Grandma Helen in a way none of my siblings were. I think she saw something in me, a mirror maybe. She used to say, "You see the rot underneath the marble, don't you?" I didn't know what that meant until I was 24. That's when I was living in New York in grad school, barely scraping by. By choice, I'd chosen to forgo the trust fund. And she invited me to visit her at her summer home in Cape Cod. Alone. She sat me down, gave me a glass of wine, and told me she had a secret she needed to share, and that I had to swear never to tell anyone until after her death. I was skeptical. But then she showed me the documents, photos, journals, letters, and what they revealed shattered everything I thought I knew about my family. The truth was this: my grandfather, the so-called patriarch of our legacy, was a monster. He'd been abusive for decades, to her, to their children, and not just physically. Some of the letters implied worse. My own father had tried to run away twice. My aunt had been institutionalized at 16, not because of rebellion, as we were told, but because she'd tried to report her father. And Helen, my regal, untouchable grandmother, had enabled it all, at first until one night in 1972, when she made a decision that would change everything. She killed him, pushed him down the marble staircase in their Connecticut mansion, broke his neck, called it an accident, convinced everyone it was a tragic fall. Then she rewrote the story. He became a saint, a visionary. She paid off doctors, rewrote medical records, paid hush money to staff, raised their children in the shadow of a man she'd hated, because the myth was worth more than the truth, and she made the kids promise never to speak of the abuse again. She paid for their therapy, bought their silence. She remade the family, brand all for power. And now in her 80s she told me because she wanted someone to know the truth, but not to tell, not to expose, just to understand. "You'll be the custodian of this truth," she said. "It will die with me. You must promise." I did, and I kept that promise for 11 years until her funeral, because that's when I saw my cousin David, her perfect grandson, the new face of the family's political ambitions, give a eulogy praising her as the moral compass of our family. And I snapped. I thought of what she'd really done, what she'd allowed, what she'd built her kingdom on, and how none of us were ever allowed to grieve or heal or know each other honestly. So I stood up after the service. I walked to the front of the cathedral, and I told everyone what she told me. Everything. I had brought the files. I read from her journals. I showed photos of bruises she'd hidden. I read the letter my aunt wrote when she was 16, begging to be believed. I showed the real autopsy report. I told them their beloved matriarch was a murderer, and that she had saved them, yes, but also enslaved them to a myth that had poisoned every generation after. The room was silent. People started crying. Some walked out. Others screamed at. Me, my aunt collapsed. The fallout was nuclear. My parents disowned me. My siblings blocked me. The family lawyer accused me of forging documents. He later retracted. Half the family says I'm mentally ill. The other half is silent. A few have reached out to say they believe me, quietly, secretly, but no one is standing with me publicly. The press hasn't gotten hold of it, yet, but whispers are starting. David's campaign is in trouble. The foundation's donations are drying up. Our family name is starting to crack, and I'm the one holding the hammer. People say I betrayed her, that I broke a sacred promise, that I destroyed the one thing holding us all together. But that's just it. The one thing holding us together was a lie. So, Reddit. Am I the a-hole for breaking my grandmother's deathbed promise and tearing down our family's entire legacy, even though it meant betraying the only person who ever trusted me with the truth? Am I the a-hole for destroying my twin brother's marriage, our family, and possibly our entire childhood by exposing what he did to me when we were kids, after everyone spent years calling me a liar? I'm 33 now. But this story really starts when I was 7. My name's Noah, M33, and I have a twin brother named Liam. We were identical, born minutes apart, raised in a hyper-traditional household with strict Christian values. Our parents were the kind of people who thought appearances were everything. Perfect family photos, Sunday school, no alcohol, no therapy, and absolutely no family drama. From the outside, we were the golden boys. From the inside, we were fractured. From the beginning. Because Liam, my twin, was their favorite, and not in the vague, subtle way a lot of siblings experience favoritism. I mean full-blown obsession. He was the charming one, the athletic one, the clever one who always had the right answer, and the innocent smile and the boys will be boys pass that let him do whatever he wanted without consequences. I was quieter, smaller, nervous, always trying to stay out of his shadow. When we were 6, things started to happen, things I didn't have the language for until I was much older. Liam would touch me when our parents weren't around. He'd do it like a game, like a secret. He'd whisper that it was a twin thing and that I was the weird one for flinching. Sometimes he'd laugh. Sometimes he'd get mad and threaten to tell our parents that I'd stolen something if I didn't let him. Once he told me if I said anything, he'd kill our dog. I believed him. It went on for years. Little moments, in closets, under blankets, on long car rides where he'd pretend to sleep. I tried to tell our mother once. I said Liam was being weird and making me uncomfortable. She said, "That's your twin. He's just playing. Don't be dramatic." So I stopped trying. At 13, it finally stopped. He got into sports. Girls started noticing him. He stopped looking at me that way, but by then I was broken. I didn't trust anyone. I had night terrors. I hated my body. I started self-harming. I told a youth pastor once, and he said, "You're letting the devil tempt you with false memories. Forgive your brother. He's your blood." That was the last time I tried to tell anyone for nearly 15 years. Liam thrived. Scholarships, med school, married young, beautiful wife named Kayla, 3 kids, suburban house, respectable job. Meanwhile, I drifted, community college dropout, struggled with addiction, depression, got clean in my mid-20s, worked in non-profits, still single, still haunted, but I never forgot. When I was 30, I finally told my therapist the full story. She told me plainly, "That was abuse. You were abused." And hearing someone validate that, really say it out loud, cracked something inside me. Started writing it all down. Dates, memories, triggers. I wasn't sure what I was going to do with it. Maybe nothing. But then, 2 years ago, my father had a heart attack. The whole family came together for the hospital stay. It was tense. Seeing Liam again made my skin crawl. He acted like we were best friends, hugged me, called me Noe. Tried to reminisce about our childhood like none of it had happened. I played along because I had no choice, until I saw him alone in the waiting room with his oldest son, and I saw him touch the boy's back in a way that made me freeze. Maybe it was innocent, maybe it wasn't, but it triggered everything, and something inside me snapped. I pulled Kayla aside the next day. We'd never been close, but she'd always been kind to me. I told her I needed to tell her something that might ruin her life. She agreed to meet me the next week, alone. We met at a diner. I told her everything. I didn't hold back. I showed her the journal, the timeline, the scars, literal and emotional. I told her I wasn't accusing him of abusing their kids, but I couldn't ignore what he did to me. That she deserved to know who she married. That someone needed to see me. She didn't say much, just nodded, asked a few quiet questions, and left. 3 days later, everything exploded. Kayla took the kids and left Liam, filed for divorce, told my parents what I'd said. They called me a liar, said I was jealous, said I was mentally ill, that I'd always resented Liam and made things up. Liam went full nuclear, called me a sick freak, accused me of trying to steal his family. He even tried to say I was the one who experimented on him as a kid. Kayla didn't believe him. She said it explained too much, his repressed behavior, his control issues, the unexplained bursts of rage, the way he'd always avoided talking about his childhood. She said she believed me, but no one else did. My parents cut me off, said I wasn't welcome in the house anymore. Extended family followed their lead. My father refused to speak to me on his deathbed, calling me a perverted Judas. My mother told people I was possessed by bitterness. Liam lost his job after Kayla told his boss why she was divorcing him. He's now living with our cousin. He still has joint custody of the kids, though Kayla's fighting it. There's no legal proof of what he did to me, and he's never been formally accused of harming the kids. I'm now the pariah, the crazy twin, the one who destroyed the family. Even people who believe me have asked if maybe I should have just stayed quiet. What good did it do? They ask. Why now? Why not just let the past die? But I couldn't. I couldn't carry the silence anymore. Not when it kept poisoning me. Not when I kept wondering who else he might hurt. Not when no one had ever looked me in the eye and said, "I believe you." Kayla said it. Her kids, they send me cards now. They still call me Uncle Noah. Sometimes I think that's enough. Sometimes I lie awake at night and wonder if I really did ruin everything. So tell me, Reddit, am I the a-hole for destroying my twin brother's life and our family by exposing what he did to me, even if I waited decades to do it? Am I the a-hole for revealing that my older brother is actually my biological father, and ruining 3 generations of my family in one night? I didn't find out the truth about my life until I was 28 years old, and by then, everything I thought I knew was already a carefully constructed lie. The kind of lie that's designed to bury itself deep in your bones, grow quietly inside your blood, and only wake up when the pain is loud enough to finally rip the walls down. When the lie woke up in my life, it shattered everything, and I was the one who finally dragged it into the light. My name's Isaac, now 30M. I grew up in a small conservative town where families were tight-knit, reputations mattered, and secrets were swept under church pews and porch steps. My parents, David and Marlene, had me late in life. My mother was 42 when she had me. My dad was 45. I had 2 older siblings, Rebecca, 17 years older than me, and Aaron, 14 years older. Aaron was always my favorite. He was wild and free and funny. He let me watch R-rated movies when Mom wasn't home. He took me to baseball games and concerts. He was the one I called when I had my first heartbreak. When I was 10, he left for college out of state, and I cried for weeks. Our relationship stayed strong even as I got older. We texted every week, called every Sunday. He became a high school teacher and eventually got married to his longtime girlfriend, Sarah. I was the best man at his wedding. I always felt like I could tell him anything. Rebecca was the opposite. Cold, distant, controlling. She got married when I was 7 and moved to another state. She rarely visited. When she did, she acted like I didn't belong in the room with the adults. I once asked her why she never smiled around me, and she told me, "Some things just aren't meant to be." I didn't understand it at the time. There were always little oddities, like how I never saw any baby photos of myself, just toddler pictures, or how my parents refused to talk about my birth. It was traumatic, let's not dwell, my mother would say, or how I once found an old birthday card in a box in the garage addressed to baby Isaac, in my brother's handwriting, signed, "I'll always love you, no matter what." When I was 28, my mother had a stroke. It wasn't fatal, but it was enough to scare everyone. She became paranoid and disoriented, especially in the hospital. She kept asking if the boy knew the truth. She'd grab my hand and cry. "I didn't want this. I wanted you to be safe. I'm sorry. I didn't understand at first, but I asked my father, pushed him really. For the first time in my life, I said I needed answers. He broke down. He told me that Aaron, my brother, was actually my biological father. When Aaron was 14, he was sexually abused by Rebecca's best friend, a woman named Kelly, who was 22 at the time. She had been staying with our family temporarily after her apartment burned down. She groomed him. No one noticed, or maybe they did, and ignored it. When she got pregnant, she told everyone it was a random one-night stand and disappeared. Left the baby as me on our doorstep at 2 weeks old. My parents, mine out of shame, fear, maybe even guilt, decided to raise me as their own. Aaron was forbidden from telling anyone. They pulled him out of school for a year, homeschooled him, and when he returned, he was just my big brother. Rebecca, who hated Kelly and blamed her for tainting the family, never forgave my parents for not giving me up for adoption. She refused to hold me as a baby. She moved out as soon as she legally could. She told everyone it was because of moral differences. Everything suddenly made sense. The strange glances, the tension, the coldness, the overcompensation from Aaron. I was stunned. For weeks, I didn't speak to anyone. I felt like a walking ghost. Who was I? Who wasn't I? I finally confronted Aaron. He cried, told me he wanted to tell me so many times but was afraid, that he didn't want to mess me up, that he was only 14 when it happened, and never really processed it. He told me he loved me, had always loved me, that being called my brother was both a privilege and a knife to the heart every time. I told him I needed time. He understood, but it didn't stop there, because after a few months our mother died, and at the funeral, surrounded by extended family and distant friends, I snapped. I got up during the eulogy. I looked out at the crowd. I saw the polished lies, the clean black suits, the people who thought they knew our family. And I told the truth. I said, "My name is Isaac, and the woman in this casket was not my mother. She was my grandmother, and my father is sitting right there in the front row, crying, pretending to be my brother." The silence was nuclear. My father, the man who raised me, shouted at me to sit down. Rebecca walked out. People gasped. Some thought I was making it up. Others started whispering, remembering the rumors about Kelly and her disappearance. Aaron sat frozen, tears pouring down his face. The aftermath was chaos. Rebecca cut off contact completely. She told me I was a disgrace and had humiliated our family's legacy. My father begged me to apologize. He said he'd forgiven me for being born, but couldn't forgive me for turning grief into theater. Aaron didn't speak to me for a while. Not out of anger, but shame. He sent me one text a few days later. "I deserved that, I'm sorry." Sarah, his wife, was blindsided. She hadn't known. Not even after 10 years of marriage. She left him for a month, took the kids, said she needed to reassess who she'd married. She came back eventually, but their marriage still hasn't fully recovered. And me, I lost a family, and I found one. All at once. I've started therapy. I've met with trauma counselors. I've tried to understand the layers of what happened, the abuse, the silence, the generational damage. I've started writing again, but I still wonder. I told the truth, but I shattered lives. So tell me, am I the a-hole for telling the truth? About my real father at my mother's funeral, even if it destroyed what was left of our family. Am I the a-hole for destroying my twin brother's life after he framed me for a crime I didn't commit, and for letting our entire family turn against him in the aftermath? I want to believe I'm a good person. I want to believe that if you push someone far enough into hell, they have the right to fight back, even if it means dragging everyone else down with them. But there are days I look in the mirror and I don't recognize the man staring back. Just a scarred reflection of someone who lost everything and decided finally to burn the forest down. This starts when we were kids. I, now 33M, have an identical twin brother, Daniel. To the outside world, we were inseparable. We looked the same, dressed the same, shared a bedroom until we were 17. To teachers, we were the Anderson boys, to relatives, the twins. To each other. That's where it got complicated. Daniel has always had this shadow to him, a charisma that drew people in, but a mean streak that scared me. He'd pull cruel pranks and laugh when I cried. When we were 8, he convinced our mom I stole money from her purse. I got grounded for a week. When we were 12, he told our first girlfriend, we were both crushing on the same girl, that I made fun of her behind her back. She stopped talking to me. In high school, he swapped my essay with a blank sheet the night before it was due, got me a 0, and then laughed when I cried about losing my GPA ranking. Our parents, especially our dad, always took his side. Daniel was the golden twin, star athlete, charmer. I was quieter, more bookish. I kept my head down. I learned early that standing up for myself only made things worse. We went to different colleges, finally. I went to a small liberal arts school for writing. He went to a state school with a big football program. I thought it was the beginning of our divergence. I finally felt like my life was mine. I had my first real girlfriend, made friends who didn't know I was one of those twins. I felt whole, finally, until my junior year, when Daniel showed up. He'd dropped out of school, some academic scandal involving cheating that he swore wasn't his fault, and decided to visit me for a few weeks. He ended up staying 5 months. At first it was fun. People thought it was hilarious how identical we were. Daniel milked it. He took my ID, snuck into bars, even flirted with my girlfriend behind my back. I asked him to back off. He laughed. Said, "Relax, she knows you're the safe one." Then one night everything collapsed. My roommate's laptop went missing, along with his backup drive and about $300 in cash. He reported it to campus police. I didn't worry. I hadn't done anything. But when they came to search our dorm, they found everything in my locker. I was shocked, confused, furious. I told them I didn't know how it got there. They didn't believe me. Neither did my roommate, or the dean, or anyone, really. The evidence was too neat, too clean. I was expelled within the month. Academic dishonesty and theft. My parents were ashamed. They told me to come home and figure myself out. I knew it was Daniel. I knew it. But when I confronted him, he just looked at me and said, "You think anyone would believe you over me?" I left. I couch-surfed, I got a job at a gas station, tried to piece myself back together. Meanwhile, Daniel moved on with his life. He moved to California, got into real estate, started dating an influencer, built a perfect image of success. I didn't talk to him for 5 years, but then, 3 years ago, I got a message from his girlfriend. She found me on Facebook, said she needed to ask me something strange. We got on the phone. She told me she thought Daniel was hiding something, that sometimes she thought she was dating 2 people, that he acted completely differently on certain days. I asked what she meant. She sent me a photo. It was me. Daniel had been impersonating me for years, telling people he had a twin who'd lost his way, using my name to dodge bills, to cheat on his girlfriend, to defraud people. I was horrified. She was shaking when she asked, "Are you you? Because I'm not sure I ever met the real one." That's when I decided I'd had enough. I told her everything, the pranks, the theft, the framing, the expulsion. I even showed her documentation. Expulsion letters, witness accounts. She was floored. She dumped him that week. I thought maybe that was the end, but it wasn't. The universe, it seems, decided to give me one final chance to even the scales. Daniel's real estate business, built on sand. He'd been skimming off investor money, creating fake shell companies, laundering funds through bogus renovations, and one of those investors, my college roommate, the same one Daniel had framed me against. He reached out to me, furious, because he thought I had scammed him. But this time I had years of documentation, including messages from Daniel admitting to impersonating me. So I made a choice. I went to the authorities, and I gave them everything, every email, every document, every message, every false identity. Every bank transaction I could find. Daniel was arrested 6 months later. Wire fraud, identity theft, tax evasion. He's still awaiting sentencing, but the charges carry up to 30 years. My parents, they lost their minds. My mother sobbed and begged me to recant. Said Daniel was just a kid who made mistakes. My father disowned me. Said I betrayed my own blood. But here's the twist. When the story hit the news, everything came out, including what happened at college. My name was cleared. The school issued a formal apology. They offered to reinstate my degree. One of the professors who had testified against me wrote a personal letter of apology. I got my life back. But Daniel lost his. His reputation is destroyed. His assets are frozen. His former clients are suing him. And the family that once saw him as golden? They've turned bitter and broken, and I feel nothing, no joy, no relief, just tired. So I'll ask, am I the a-hole for letting my twin brother's life collapse after he stole mine, even if it meant watching my entire family? Turn to ash? Am I the a-hole for keeping my sister's biggest secret for 10 years and finally revealing it to her husband, who is also my best friend, after she accused me of being in love with him? I've carried this story like a disease for 10 years. It's rotted parts of me I didn't even know could decay. I tried to protect everyone, her, him, their kids, their picture-perfect life, but secrets are like tumors. They always grow. And mine finally exploded in a way that destroyed everything. I, 34, have a sister, Eliza, 36F. Growing up, we were incredibly close. 2 years apart, shared everything. Bedrooms, secrets, first heartbreaks. She was my best friend, my protector, my role model. Our bond was the envy of people who knew us. When she started dating Alex, 35M, in college, a guy I instantly clicked with, I was thrilled. Alex was smart, funny, empathetic, the kind of guy who really listens when you talk. We became best friends within weeks. They got married when I was 24. I was the best man. Gave a speech that made everyone cry, including myself. I said watching. Them together gave me hope for love. It felt true at the time. After they had their first kid, something in Eliza changed. She became distant with Alex, short-tempered, suspicious. At first I thought it was postpartum or maybe stress, but then she started calling me late at night, crying, venting, spinning paranoid scenarios. "She's cheating on me," she whispered once. I assumed she meant Alex, but then she said, "I'm the one cheating." The world tilted. She told me she'd been having an affair with a co-worker, a man named Miles, older, wealthy, married. It had been going on for 5 months. She said she didn't know why she did it, that it started as harmless flirting during late work nights and escalated into something out of control. She swore she still loved Alex. She swore she'd end it. She begged me not to tell him, and I didn't, because I was an idiot, because I loved my sister, because I didn't want to be the wrecking ball that tore a family apart. She promised she'd end it. She didn't. A few months later, she got pregnant again. I asked her if she was sure it was Alex's. She snapped at me, told me to never ask that again. I dropped it. For the next 10 years, I kept her secret. I watched Alex, my best friend, pour his soul into being a husband and father, while my sister emotionally distanced herself and resented him for reasons he never understood. I watched him cry to me over beers, saying he didn't know why she didn't love him anymore. I told him to be patient, that things would get better. I felt like a monster. I was the godfather to both their kids. Then, last summer, the dam cracked. My long-term girlfriend and I got engaged. We threw a big engagement party. Everyone was there, family, friends, co-workers, including Eliza and Alex. Eliza drank too much. At first, she was just loudly happy. Then she pulled me aside and said she wanted to talk. She dragged me into a corner of the yard, stared at me with glassy eyes and said, "I know why you've never settled down before this." I was confused. I said, "What?" She said, "You've been in love with Alex all along." I laughed, thinking she was joking. She wasn't. She got furious, said I was always inserting myself into their marriage, that I couldn't stand not being the most important person in his life, that I used her affair as leverage to make myself feel superior. I was stunned. I told her to stop talking. She doubled down, called me emotionally manipulative, said she knew I kept her secret because it gave me power. And that's when I snapped. Not loudly, not publicly, quietly, controlled, cold. I looked her in the eye and said, "If you really believe I've been manipulating you for a decade, then maybe it's time Alex knew what you've been hiding for 10 years. Her face went white. I left the party early. 2 days later, I told Alex everything. I met him at our usual bar. I brought printed emails Eliza had forwarded me back then, screenshots of messages, even a photo she'd once drunkenly sent me of her and Miles in a hotel mirror. I told him I didn't want to hurt him, that I hated myself for not telling him sooner, that I stayed quiet out of loyalty, fear, love. Pick your poison. He didn't say a word for a long time. Then he said, "She always said I was the liar." Then he got up and left. The aftermath was nuclear. He filed for separation within a week, moved out, asked for a paternity test. Turns out one of the kids is his, the other is Miles's. He cried when he told me. Said he'd suspected but hoped he was wrong. He said, "I thought you of all people would have my back." Eliza is livid. She says I betrayed her, says I ruined her life, says I turned her kid's world upside down. Our parents are split. Mom thinks I picked sides. Dad thinks I did the right thing too late. My fiancé supports me but quietly asked if I'd ever keep something that big from her. The kids, they're confused. They don't know the full truth, just that Mom and Dad aren't living together anymore. One of them doesn't speak to Eliza now. The other clings to her like a lifeline. Alex won't speak to me. Won't return calls or texts. I think I broke something that can't be fixed. I thought I was doing the right thing, finally. But I still feel like I'm drowning in guilt. So tell me, am I the a-hole for revealing my sister's secret after 10 years because she accused me of being in love with her husband? Am I the a-hole for secretly DNA testing my son after years of suspicion and accidentally blowing up my wife's entire family in the process? I never thought I'd be the guy to write one of these posts. I always thought I had a solid moral compass, that I was level-headed, rational, that I was better than the paranoid husbands you hear about online who don't trust their wives and go behind their backs doing sneaky paternity tests. But here I am, I, 38M, have been married to my wife, Laura, 37F, for 11 years. We met in college, had a whirlwind romance, got married right after graduation. She was everything I ever wanted, brilliant, funny, warm, and deeply connected to her family. Her parents treated me like one of their own. Her older brother, Jean, 39mm, and I became friends. It felt like I married into a dream family. We have 2 children. Our daughter Lily is 9. Our son Ethan is 6. I love them both fiercely, to the point where it hurts. I've been there for every diaper, every scraped knee, every science fair, every nightmare. I've worked brutal hours in construction management to give them a good life. I'd have taken a bullet for any of them. That's what makes this so unbearable. For years I ignored the whispers in my head that Ethan looked nothing like me, that he didn't even really look like Laura. Not in the way Lily does anyway. Lily has my hazel eyes, my jawline, her mother's curls. Ethan? Pale blue eyes, blonde hair so light it's almost white, a nose I've never seen in either family. People used to comment on it constantly when he was a baby. Where'd he get those eyes? He looks like a little Viking, I'd laugh it off. Genetics are weird, recessive genes, blah, blah, blah. But the thoughts kept creeping in, especially as he got older. The timeline of when Laura got pregnant with him started to gnaw at me. She and I had a rough patch around then. We were trying for a second baby, but I was working out of state, on a project for 2 months. When she told me she was pregnant, I was surprised but thrilled. I figured one of our brief visits had done the trick. But then, last fall, the whispers got louder. Laura's brother Sean made a passing joke at a barbecue. We were drinking and Ethan was playing in the yard. Sean said, "Hey, little guy's got your arm on him." "Well, not yours, but you know what I mean," I said. "What do you mean?" He just laughed and waved it off like it was a joke. But his face turned red. That night, I couldn't sleep. So, I did something I'm not proud of. I bought a DNA test online, one of those home kits. I swabbed Ethan one morning when he was brushing his teeth, told him it was a game. I swabbed myself later. I mailed them in. And I waited. The results came back a month later. 0% chance of paternity. Not my son. I sat there staring at the screen, shaking. I felt like the floor had dropped out from under me. My hands wouldn't stop trembling. I couldn't breathe. Confronted Laura that night. I didn't yell, I didn't rage. I just showed her the results and said, "Tell me everything." At first she denied it. Then she claimed the test must be faulty. Then she started crying. Said she made a mistake. Said she'd slept with someone once during our rough patch when she was lonely and I was away. I asked her who. She wouldn't say. I asked again. Again she refused. I told her calmly, "If you don't tell me, I'll find out." She broke down and whispered, "It was Sean, her brother, her married brother." I felt like I was going to throw up. I genuinely thought I was hallucinating. I asked her to repeat herself. She did. "Sean, it was Sean. It only happened once, I swear." I left. I checked into a hotel for the night, then another night, then a week. She begged me not to tell anyone. Said it would destroy the family. Said Sean's wife, Hannah, didn't deserve to have her life blown up over a one-time mistake. That Ethan didn't need to grow up knowing he was the product of something so awful. But I couldn't keep it in. I told Hannah. I felt like she deserved to know. She had a right to the truth and to choose what she wanted to do with the information. She sobbed. She left Sean, took their 2 kids and went to stay with her sister. When Sean tried to call me, I didn't answer. I thought that would be the end of it, but oh no, Laura's family closed ranks, hard. Her parents accused me of destroying the family over something that happened years ago and didn't matter anymore. Her mother called me and screamed at me for dragging Ethan into adult drama. Laura's dad begged me to reconsider for the sake of the children. Sean sent me a 3-page email, apologizing but also minimizing, saying he was drunk, that it wasn't planned, that it was a moment of weakness. He begged me not to cut Ethan out of my life, said, "You've been the only dad he's ever known. And the worst part? He's right. Ethan is my son. Emotionally, spiritually, practically. I raised him. I taught him how to ride a bike. I took him to his first day of school. I've cleaned up his vomit and held him when he cried about monsters under his bed. But now every time I look at him, I see Sean, his eyes, his smile, his damn laugh. I didn't tell Ethan the truth. I won't. Not now. He's too young. Maybe someday. Maybe never. I don't know. Laura and I are now separated. I told her I can't be with someone who betrayed me on that level, with that person. She's in therapy. She's trying to fight for the marriage, but I don't know if there's anything left to fight for. Some betrayals are just radioactive. My own parents are stunned. My mom wants me to forgive and move forward. My dad says, "Blood isn't everything, you raised that boy." My friends are split. Half say I should take Laura to the cleaners in court. The other half say I need to think about Ethan's emotional well-being before burning it all down. So here I am, torn, devastated, lost, and wondering, am I the a-hole for secretly DNA testing my son and detonating an entire family because I couldn't silence the doubt? Am I the a-hole for telling my daughter the truth about why I cut her mother off, ruining her image of her mum forever? This is going to be long, messy, and painful to write. But I need objective strangers to weigh in, because the fallout from this has ripped my family into pieces, and I'm starting to question if I truly did the right thing, or if I let my own bitterness poison my daughter. I, 46M, was married to my ex-wife, Rachel, 44F, for 12 years. We were high school sweethearts, stayed together through college, got married in our mid-20s, had our daughter, Emma, 17F, a few years later. For a long time, I thought I had the perfect life, beautiful wife, lovely daughter, house in the suburbs, 2 dogs, the whole cliché. Rachel was always the golden one in our relationship, charismatic, graceful, the kind of woman people admired. She ran a successful local interior design business and was always on community boards and parent-teacher associations. Everyone loved Rachel. I loved her too, or at least the version. I thought she was 7 years ago, everything blew up. I found out she had been having a long-term affair with her business partner, Nick. I discovered it by accident. She left her iPad at home one day, while it was still connected to her iMessages. I saw a stream of disgusting, intimate texts and photos. Some of it was from inside our home on our couch. While I was at work, I confronted her. At first, she denied it. Then she blamed me, said I'd been emotionally distant, too focused, on work that I didn't make her feel desired. She tried to say it just happened and she didn't mean to hurt anyone. I was destroyed. I cried. I screamed. I begged her to come clean and end it. Instead, she packed a bag and left to clear her head, which really meant staying with Nick. What followed was the ugliest divorce you can imagine. Rachel weaponized Emma against me. She painted me as cold, controlling, and unloving. She told Emma lies about how I had pushed her away. She never admitted to the affair. She said we had simply grown apart. I wanted to scream the truth, but at the time, Emma was 10. I thought shielding her from the ugliness was the right thing to. So I took the high road, or tried to. I didn't fight for full custody because I didn't want to rip Emma away from her mom. We did 50-50. I paid alimony and child support, even though Rachel had a successful business and lived with her affair partner within 6 months of our separation. Emma always adored her mom. I think she saw her as this glamorous, elegant figure. And because Rachel curated this perfect narrative, 2 adults who fell out of love but still love their daughter, Emma bought it. I never corrected the record. I let her believe it because I didn't want to ruin her relationship with her mum. I just bottled the resentment, the betrayal, the nights I cried in the dark while Emma was asleep in the next room. Fast forward to now. Emma's 17, finishing high school, prepping for college. We've stayed close. I've always been the boring parent, the one who helps with homework and teaches her how to budget. Rachel has always been the fun parent, spontaneous. Vacations, lavish gifts, no rules. It annoyed me, but I kept quiet. Then last month, Rachel and Nick announced they were getting married. Emma was over the moon. She came over crying happy tears, saying she'd always wanted them to be official. She asked me to come to the wedding. I said no, gently. She pressed, confused, and I finally said, "Emma, I'm not going to the wedding of the man who destroyed my marriage." Her face fell. "What do you mean?" she asked. I told her the truth. I told her everything, that Rachel had cheated, lied, manipulated the narrative, turned Emma against me with half-truths. I showed her the old texts I'd saved, the divorce documents that mentioned adultery, even emails from Rachel begging me not to go public with the affair for the sake of her business. I didn't sugarcoat it. Emma went completely still, didn't speak for minutes. Then she started crying, angry, betrayed sobs. She said, "She lied to me for 7 years." I held her as she cried, and I hated that this was the only way she could finally see the truth, but I also felt vindicated. That was 2 weeks ago. Since then, everything's imploded. Emma confronted her mother. Apparently, Rachel admitted to the affair, but said it was a mistake born out of years of neglect, and insisted she had shielded Emma from the truth to protect her. She begged Emma to forgive her. Emma refused to attend the wedding and moved in with me full-time. Rachel is furious. She called me a poisonous bastard who turned her daughter against her. She says I did it to get revenge and that I've ruined Emma's image of her forever. Her family, who never liked me much to begin with, are calling me selfish and emotionally abusive for dumping adult problems on a teenager. My own parents are split. My mum thinks I should have told Emma years ago. My dad thinks I should have never told her at all. My brother says I just wanted to win some imaginary competition with Rachel. Emma, for her part, says she's glad I told her. But I see the pain in her eyes, the confusion, the heartbreak. She won't even speak to her mom. She's declined her wedding invite. Rachel texted me yesterday saying, "You've broken something that can't be fixed." So, did I? Am I the a-hole for telling my daughter the truth about her mother's affair, even if it shattered their relationship? Am I the a-hole for exposing my sister's fake engagement at her own party and ruining our family dynamic? Throwaway account, obviously, because my family lurks Reddit like it's their second job. I need honest opinions, because apparently half my family now hates me, and the other half is afraid to even text me in case they're next. This all blew up 2 weeks ago at my sister Tessa's engagement party, and my life hasn't been the same since. For context, I, 29F, have a younger, sister Tessa, 26F. We were never super close growing up because she's always been performative. That's the nicest word I can find. She thrives on attention, validation, and social media. Everything is curated: her outfits, her apartment, her dog, her job. As a brand consultant, read Instagram affiliate for health supplements that may or may not be laxatives, she's the kind of person who will spend 45 minutes editing a candid selfie of herself drinking matcha in golden hour lighting, then pretend she just happened to capture a moment of joy. Our relationship became even more strained. When I got engaged 2 years ago to my now husband, Mark, Tessa made it all about her. She gave 5 toasts at my bridal shower, wore white to my wedding rehearsal dinner, and posted a carousel of photos of herself crying during our ceremony, with the caption, "Love is real, someday soon for me too." Eye roll. Anyway, about a month ago, she announced out of nowhere that she and her boyfriend Mason were engaged. Mason is sketchy. I've met him exactly once, and he gave me such bad vibes I can't even explain it. Think crypto bro meets failed DJ meets life coach. They've only been dating for 3 months, and I say dating loosely because he lives in Miami and Tessa is in LA. I don't think they've ever even spent more than 5 consecutive days in the same city. She sends out invites for this massive engagement party at this rooftop bar in West Hollywood, which, by the way, she says is sponsored by a few of her brand partners. Already bizarre. The RSVP list is over 100 people. She hires a photographer, a videographer, and a drone. Yes, a drone, to capture the ambiance, whatever that means. At this point, I'm suspicious. I call our mum, and she says, Tessa hasn't shown anyone a ring, and Mason hasn't called Dad to ask for permission. We're not those people, but my dad is traditional, and she knows that. Mum thinks maybe it was a spontaneous proposal, and they're keeping it casual. But I'm skeptical. Something just feels off. I start snooping. I know, but Tessa has a public Instagram and posts like 20 stories a day. I notice that Mason hasn't liked or commented on any of her engagement posts. Not one. Not even the reel where she's holding his hand with a blurred ring. In the background, while that cheesy Marry You Bruno Mars song plays, I check his page. It's private, but his profile photo is literally just his abs, and his bio is CEO of Mindset Forge, DM to monetize your aura. Okay. The day of the party comes. My husband and I show up early because Tessa begged me to help coordinate logistics. I'm handed a walkie-talkie. There's a red carpet, a step and repeat with their names on it. It's more like a brand launch than an engagement party. I'm exhausted already. Guests trickle in. Champagne is passed. Tessa floats around like she's on air. But there's no sign of Mason. 30 minutes go by, an hour, still no Mason. I ask her where he is, and she says he's on his way from the airport, but she won't look me in the eye when she says it. Mind you, she lives 20 minutes from LAX. People start asking questions. When's the couple's toast? When do we meet the groom-to-be? Did he propose in Paris like your post hinted? Tessa keeps deflecting with weird answers, like he's a mystery man, right? Or the best things are worth the wait. At this point, I'm done. I pull her aside and quietly ask, Tessa, is this real? Is Mason even coming? She stares at me and bursts into fake tears. Says I'm ruining her moment and that I don't understand how hard it is to have a long-distance engagement with someone so spiritually in demand. That was it for me. I walked out onto the center of the floor where her influencer friends were taking selfies with the balloon arch, grabbed the mic from the DJ, yes, there was a DJ, and said, Hi everyone. Sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to clarify something on behalf of the family. There is no real engagement. There's no fiancé. Mason isn't coming. This is all fake. Sorry for the confusion. Dead silence. Tessa screams like she's been physically stabbed. Starts sobbing and screaming, she's lying, she's obsessed with me, while running out of the venue. Her best friend chases her. People are whispering, some laughing nervously, some filming. I left shortly after. My phone blew up for hours. My mum called crying. My dad said I humiliated the family. Tessa's best friend DM'd me, You're evil and jealous and she will never forgive you. Tessa herself posted a long Instagram story series about narcissistic siblings and female competition, and how truth is subjective, with a link to her new Substack called Curated Chaos. But here's the kicker. A few days later, one of my husband's co-workers who knows Mason in real life messages him and says Mason told everyone at his co-working space that he was never engaged and barely knows that girl from LA. Apparently they hooked up a few times after meeting at some crypto retreat, and he ghosted her after she showed up unannounced in Miami with a film crew. So I wasn't wrong. I wasn't lying. It was fake. The engagement, the party, all of it. Fabricated. Manufactured for content. But now I'm the villain in our family. My mum says I should have pulled her aside privately. My dad won't answer my calls. Tessa has blocked me on everything and told extended family that I'm a toxic abuser. Even some of my cousins say I should have let her have her moment. Even if it wasn't real because it wasn't hurting anyone. But isn't deception harmful? Isn't it emotionally manipulative to lie to 100+ people for attention and clout? Doesn't the truth matter? I don't know, maybe I did go too far, maybe I was harsh, maybe I ruined her life, but I also feel like someone had to stop the madness. So, Reddit, am I the a-hole?